The vanilla candle flickered against the marble countertop of my empty kitchen, its sweet scent doing nothing to mask the bitter taste of disappointment coating my throat. 28 years old today, and I was celebrating alone again. The same way I'd celebrated my 16th, 20th, 25th. Every birthday that mattered, really. My phone screen glowed with notifications from friends and colleagues, their warm wishes creating a steady stream of dopamine hits. But the one message I'd been unconsciously waiting for never came. Mom hadn't even remembered. I traced my finger along the cold granite surface, remembering how she'd gushed about this exact pattern when we'd toured model homes together 5 years ago. Calicotta marble, she'd whispered reverently, running her manicured nails across the pristine surface. In my dream house, I'd have an entire island just like this. Back then, I was still desperately trying to build bridges between us, still believing that maybe, just maybe, if I achieved enough success, she'd finally see me. Really see me. My laptop hummed to life as I opened it, the familiar blue glow of my streaming setup reflecting off the windows of my downtown penthouse. Outside, the city sparkled like scattered diamonds, but inside, the silence pressed against my eardrums with the weight of 3 decades of maternal indifference. "Happy birthday to me," I whispered to the empty room, then immediately felt pathetic for the melodrama. My phone buzzed. For a split second, hope fluttered in my chest like a trapped bird. But it was just my assistant, Emma, sending a reminder about tomorrow's board meeting. The irony wasn't lost on me. My employees remembered more about my life than my own mother did. I scrolled through my contacts until I found her number. "Call Mom," I said aloud, watching as the phone rang once, twice, 3 times. "Oh, Sophia, what a surprise!" Mom's voice carried that familiar note of distracted politeness, the same tone she used with telemarketers. In the background, I could hear the clinking of wine glasses and the low murmur of conversation. Another one of her dinner parties. "Hi, Mom. Just wanted to say hello." "That's sweet, honey. Listen, I'm just finishing up with the Hendersons. You remember Mrs. Henderson from the country club? Her daughter just got engaged to that lovely boy from the pharmaceutical family. Anyway, we're planning the most gorgeous spring wedding, and I'm helping with the—" "Mom!" My voice came out sharper than intended. "Do you know what today is?" A pause. The kind of pause that speaks volumes, filled with a sudden awareness of a forgotten obligation. "Oh, oh no. Sophia, sweetie, I'm so sorry. Your birthday completely slipped my mind. This week has been absolutely insane with the charity auction planning, and—" "It's fine," I lied, my fingers already moving across my laptop keyboard with practiced efficiency. "Really, I understand. We'll do something special next week, I promise. Lunch at that place you like. What's it called?" "The Ivy," I supplied automatically, though she'd probably forget that too. "Yes, the Ivy. My treat. I'll have Susan call you to set it up." Of course, even making lunch plans with her own daughter required delegation to her assistant. "Sounds perfect, Mom. Enjoy your party." I hung up before she could offer any more hollow promises. The silence that followed felt different now. Not empty, but charged. Crystalline, like the moment before lightning strikes. I'd built my streaming platform, Echo Live, from nothing into a multi-million-dollar empire. I'd revolutionized how content creators monetized their audiences, developed proprietary technology that every major platform now tried to replicate. I was worth more money than my mother could spend in 3 lifetimes, commanded respect from industry leaders who'd once dismissed me as just another pretty face trying to play businesswoman. But none of that had ever been enough to earn her attention. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as an idea began to form, elegant, precise, and absolutely devastating in its simplicity. I opened my streaming dashboard and began typing. 3 hours later, my emergency broadcast was ready to go live. I'd changed into my favorite black silk blouse, the one that photographed beautifully under studio lights, and arranged my hair in loose waves that caught the gleam of my ring light. My makeup was flawless, dramatic enough to convey passion, subtle enough to suggest authenticity. The chat window already showed thousands of viewers logging in, drawn by the mysterious announcement I'd posted across all my social channels. Emergency charity stream, help me right a wrong. At exactly midnight, I went live. Hello, beautiful humans, I began, my voice carrying that perfect blend of vulnerability and determination I'd perfected over years of building my brand. I need to tell you a story. The viewer count climbed rapidly as I spoke. 5,000, 10,000, 15. Today is my birthday, I continued, letting my voice catch slightly. I'm 28 years old, and I've spent most of those birthdays feeling invisible. See, my mother has a gift for forgetting the people who love her most while lavishing attention on those who matter least. The chat exploded with heart emojis and supportive messages. My audience, my beautiful, loyal audience, understood what family was supposed to feel like. But instead of wallowing in self-pity, I want to do something meaningful tonight. I want to turn this disappointment into hope for someone else. I paused, letting the anticipation build. There's a family in our city, the Garcias, who lost everything in a house fire last month. They've been staying in a cramped motel room with their 3 young children while trying to rebuild their lives. The father, Miguel, works 2 jobs but can't afford a down payment on a new home. The mother, Elena, takes care of their disabled son while trying to finish her nursing degree. This was true. I'd discovered their story while researching local charities, and their situation had genuinely moved me. The fact that it perfectly served my purposes was simply serendipitous. I want to raise enough money tonight to buy them a house, I announced. Not just any house, a beautiful family home where they can feel safe and build new memories. The donation alerts began immediately. $50 from @BookwormSarah, 100 from @TechDadMike, 200 from @LunaLovesArt. But here's the thing, I continued, my voice dropping to an intimate whisper. The house I want to buy for the Garcias is the same model home my mother fell in love with 5 years ago. The one she said was her absolute dream house. I'd done my research. The Maple Grove development still had one remaining model home, the exact layout Mom had obsessed over, complete with the Calicut marble island and the wraparound porch she'd described as absolutely perfect for entertaining. She'll drive by it every day on her way to the country club, I said softly. She'll see the Garcia children playing in the yard, see Elena tending to her garden, see Miguel washing his car in the driveway. And maybe, just maybe, she'll remember what it feels like to truly love your family. The donations were flooding in now, $1,000 gifts from my regular high rollers, corporate sponsors stepping up with massive contributions. The total climbed towards 6 figures as I told story after story about the Garcia family's resilience, their gratitude, their unwavering love for each other despite their circumstances. This is what family looks like, I said, showing photos I'd taken during my visit to their motel. Miguel helping his son with homework at a tiny table, Elena braiding her daughter's hair. All 3 children squeezed together on one bed, reading a library book by lamplight. By 4 a.m., we'd raised $850,000. We did it, I whispered, real tears streaming down my face as I watched the final donations pour in. We're going to buy the Garcias their dream home. But as I signed off and began processing the donations, a different kind of satisfaction settled in my chest. Mom would learn about this, of course. She lived for social media, constantly checking to see which of her acquaintances were making headlines. When she discovered that her own daughter had orchestrated the purchase of her dream house for another family, a family that exemplified everything she'd failed to be, the knife would twist with exquisite precision. The beautiful, terrible irony was that it truly was for charity. The Garcias deserved every penny. But sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the sharpest lessons. The call came at noon the next day, just as I was reviewing contracts for the house purchase. Mom's name flashed on my screen, and I smiled before answering. Sophia? Her voice was tight, controlled. The voice she used when she was furious but trying to maintain her public composure. I just saw the news about your charitable endeavor. Oh, you heard about that? I kept my tone light, innocent. I'm so glad the story is spreading. The Garcias deserve all the attention we can give them. $850,000. Each word was clipped, precise. For strangers. For a family that lost everything, I corrected gently. Miguel works 16 hours a day to support his children. Elena is studying to become a nurse so she can help other families. Their love for each other is, well, it's inspiring. And you bought them the Maple Grove model. Ah, there it was. Did I? I suppose I focused more on the neighborhood's excellent schools and safe streets than the specific floor plan. Although I paused, as if the thought was just occurring to me. Now that you mention it, doesn't that house have the gorgeous marble countertops you love so much? Silence. The wraparound porch where you said you'd love to host summer barbecues? More silence. Mom, are you there? Why? The word came out raw, unguarded. For the first time in years, I heard my mother without her social mask. Why would you do this? I could have been cruel then. Could have listed every forgotten birthday, every dismissive conversation, every time she'd chosen her social calendar over her own daughter. But cruelty wasn't the point. Understanding was. Because they're grateful for what they have, I said simply. Because Miguel comes home from 14-hour shifts and still has energy to help his son with math homework. Because Elena talks about her children like they're the most precious gifts she's ever received. Because when that little girl draws pictures of her family, she always draws them holding hands. Sophia. They remind me what love looks like, Mom. Real love. The kind that shows up. The kind that remembers. The kind that puts family first. I ended the call and turned back to my laptop where Emma had already prepared the donation transfer documents. By evening, the Garcia family would have the keys to their new home. They'd invited me to the housewarming party, eager to thank the stranger who'd changed their lives. Meanwhile, Mom would drive past their house every day, watching their happiness bloom in the space she'd once claimed as her dream. She'd see Miguel teaching his son to ride a bike on the wraparound porch. She'd see Elena hosting actual family barbecues, not networking events disguised as social gatherings. She'd see what she could have had, should have had, if she'd ever learned to love without conditions. The doorbell chimed, interrupting my thoughts. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened the door, I found a delivery man holding an enormous bouquet of white roses. Miss Chen? That's me. The card was thick, expensive cardstock. Mom's handwriting was unmistakable. Elegant, precise, completely controlled. Sophia, I'm proud of what you've accomplished. Not just your business success, but the woman you've become. I see now that I've been a fool to take your strength for granted. Would you allow me to take you to lunch? Not next week, not when my assistant schedules it. Today. Right now, just us. I have 28 years of birthdays to make up for, and I'd like to start immediately. Love, Mom. P.S. Happy belated birthday, sweetheart. I read the note 3 times, each word sinking deeper into the space where my anger had lived for so long. The roses smelled like hope and second chances, their petals soft as forgiveness against my fingertips. My phone buzzed with a text. I'm downstairs in the lobby. No pressure, but I cleared my entire day. For you. I looked out my window and saw her there, standing beside her car in the afternoon sunlight. She wasn't checking her phone or adjusting her appearance in the side mirror. She was just waiting, looking up at my building with the patience of someone who finally understood the value of what they'd almost lost. We drove to the Ivy in comfortable silence, Mom's hand steady on the wheel despite the slight tremor I noticed when she'd first hugged me. It wasn't the air kiss greeting she usually offered, but a real embrace, the kind that lingered, that meant something. I've made reservations, she said as we pulled into the parking lot. For 2 hours, no phones, no interruptions. The restaurant was busy with the usual lunch crowd, but our corner table felt intimate, separated from the rest of the world by crystal glasses and white tablecloths. Mom ordered her usual Caesar salad, then surprised me by asking the waiter to recommend his favorite dish. The chef's special pasta, he said enthusiastically. It's not on the menu, but it's incredible. Perfect, and bring us a bottle of your best champagne. She looked at me across the table, her eyes softer than I'd seen them in years. We're celebrating. So what are we celebrating? Your birthday, finally doing it right. The champagne arrived with a small cake, chocolate with raspberry filling, exactly what I'd always requested as a child before she'd started ordering more sophisticated desserts for my birthday dinners. My throat tightened with unexpected emotion. How did you... I called the bakery you loved when you were little. Mrs. Peterson still runs it. Can you believe that? She remembered you. Said you always asked for extra raspberry filling. The first bite tasted like childhood, like being seen and remembered and cherished. I hadn't realized how hungry I'd been for this simple acknowledgement until it filled my mouth with sweetness. I owe you an apology, Mom said, setting down her fork. Not just for forgetting your birthday, but for forgetting you. For taking your love for granted while I chased approval from people who didn't matter. Mom, let me finish. Her voice was gentle but firm. I watched your live stream this morning, all 4 hours of it. I saw how your audience responded to you, how they trusted you with their money and their hearts. I saw how you talked about the Garcia family, the way your whole face lit up when you described their love for each other. She reached across the table and took my hand, her skin warm and familiar. I realized I've been watching a stranger become an extraordinary woman, when I should have been your mother, cheering you on, celebrating every victory, remembering every important moment. I just wanted you to notice me, I whispered. All the success, everything I built, I just wanted to matter to you. You've always mattered, sweetheart. I was just too proud and too scared to show it. Your father used to say I loved like a cactus, all armor and sharp edges, afraid to let anyone too close. She'd never mentioned Dad during our adult conversations. He'd died when I was 12, and afterward, Mom had seemed to close off that part of herself entirely. He said that? Among other things. She smiled wryly. He also said that someday I'd have to choose between protecting my heart and nurturing yours. He was right about that, too. The pasta arrived, steam rising from the plates like incense. We ate slowly, savoring both the food and the conversation. Mom asked about my business, really asked, listening to my answers instead of waiting for her turn to speak. She wanted to know about my employees, my vision for the company's future, the technical innovations I was most excited about. I had no idea you were developing virtual reality integration, she said, leaning forward with genuine interest. That sounds incredibly complex. It is, but imagine being able to host concerts or conferences where people feel like they're actually in the same room, even if they're on different continents. The applications for education alone. I trailed off, realizing I'd been talking animatedly for 10 minutes straight. When was the last time she'd asked me about anything more substantial than the weather? Keep going, she urged. I want to understand what you're building. So I did. I told her about my team of brilliant engineers, about the partnerships we were forming with major universities, about my vision for democratizing access to immersive experiences. Her questions were thoughtful, engaged, proud. Your father would have been fascinated by all this, she said finally. He always said you had the kind of mind that could change the world. I think I was intimidated by your brilliance, afraid I wouldn't be able to keep up. You could have tried. You're right, I should have tried. She squeezed my hand. I'm trying now. The waiter refilled our champagne glasses and Mom raised hers in a toast. To my brilliant, compassionate, absolutely remarkable daughter, to making up for lost time, and to the Garcia family, who reminded us both what love is supposed to look like. We clinked glasses, the crystal singing with promise. There's something else, she said, pulling an envelope from her purse. I've been thinking about the charity work you're doing. The way you used your platform to help that family, it inspired me. Inside the envelope was a check made out to my Echo Foundation, the nonprofit arm of my company that I'd established to support creators from underrepresented communities. The amount made me gasp. Mom, this is $500,000. I liquidated some investments, sold some jewelry I never wear. I want to be part of what you're building, not just as your mother, but as someone who believes in your mission. I stared at the check, overwhelmed. You don't have to do this. I want to. I want to be someone you can be proud of, the way I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you, I said, and realized it was true. Despite everything, despite the forgotten birthdays and dismissive conversations, she was still my mother. Still the woman who'd raised me to be independent and strong, even if she'd struggled to show her love. Even after last night, I thought about the live stream, about the satisfaction I'd felt knowing she'd discover what I'd done. It had been revenge, yes, but it had also been a gift. To the Garcias, to my audience, and ultimately to both of us. Especially after last night, I said, you needed to see what you were missing, and I needed to show you. She nodded slowly. The house, the one you bought for them. I drive past that development every day. I know. You wanted me to see it. I wanted you to understand what love looks like when it shows up every day, when it remembers what matters, when it puts family first. And now I will, every single day. She traced the rim of her champagne flute with one finger. I called the development office this morning. Did you know there's another model home available? Different floor plan, but equally beautiful. Are you thinking of moving? I'm thinking of downsizing. The house I have now is too big, too empty, too full of obligations and not enough love. She looked directly at me, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I want to live somewhere closer to you. Somewhere I can learn to be the mother you deserve. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the restaurant windows, casting everything in golden warmth. I watched my mother's face as she talked about her plans, seeing her clearly for perhaps the first time in years. She was flawed, yes. She'd hurt me with her neglect, her misplaced priorities. But she was also human, struggling with her own fears and insecurities, trying to figure out how to love better. There's one condition, I said, surprising myself. Name it. Sunday dinners, every week, just us. No phones, no other guests, no networking opportunities, just mother and daughter, sharing a meal and talking about our lives. Deal. She smiled, and for a moment I saw the woman my father must have fallen in love with. Warm, genuine, completely present. What should we cook for our first dinner? Actually, I was thinking we could invite the Garcias. I promised Elena I'd introduce her to some professional women in the community. She's brilliant, Mom. She just needs connections. I'd love that. And maybe... She hesitated, then forged ahead. Maybe you could teach me about live streaming? I've been thinking about starting a channel focused on supporting military families. Did you know I've been volunteering at the VA hospital? I didn't know that. There was so much about my mother I didn't know, I realized. So much we'd never shared. Because I'd been too angry and she'd been too proud. I'd love to help you with that, I said. We could co-stream sometimes. Mother-daughter charity drives. Really? You wouldn't be embarrassed to appear on camera with your old mom? Are you kidding? Do you know how gorgeous you are? We'd break the internet. She laughed, really laughed, and the sound was like music I'd forgotten I loved. 6 months later, I stood in the Garcia's backyard watching Elena tend to her new garden while Miguel taught his youngest daughter to throw a baseball. Their son was inside, working on a science project at the marble island that had once symbolized my mother's superficial dreams. Miss Chen, Elena called out, waving me over to admire her tomato plants. Look how big they're getting. They're beautiful, I said, and meant it. The garden was thriving under her care, much like her family in their new home. They'd painted the walls in warm colors, filled the rooms with secondhand furniture that somehow looked more elegant than anything money could buy, and transformed the space into something my mother's dream house never could have been. A real home. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Running late for Sunday dinner. Elena's interview went long, but I think she got the job. Can't wait to celebrate with you both. Mom had taken Elena under her wing immediately, using her country club connections not for social climbing, but for genuine mentorship. She'd helped Elena secure interviews at 3 different hospitals, provided professional clothing, and even offered to babysit during Elena's nursing school finals. Your mother is an angel, Elena had told me just last week. She sees the best in everyone. It was true. The woman who'd forgotten my birthdays had somehow learned to remember everyone else's, organizing surprise celebrations for Elena's graduation, Miguel's promotion, and each of the Garcia children's achievements. She'd become the kind of person who showed up. For them. For her new community of military families. And finally, for me. Sophia, Miguel approached, his work shirt dusty from his construction job. He'd been promoted to foreman last month, another opportunity that had come through Mom's networking, though she'd insisted she'd simply mentioned his excellent work ethic to the right people. How's the house treating you? I asked. Like a dream we never dared to have, he said softly. Every morning, I wake up and can't believe this is our life now. My children have their own rooms. Elena has space for her studies. We have a yard where they can play safely. He gestured toward the wraparound porch where his wife was now reading to their youngest. But you know what the best part is? What's that? The memories we're making here. This isn't just a house anymore. It's our family story. Every scraped knee on those front steps, every birthday party in this backyard, every homework session at that kitchen counter. We'll remember all of it. Our children will grow up knowing they're loved, that they're safe, that they belong somewhere. His words hit me with unexpected force. This was what I'd been seeking all along. Not just a beautiful space, but a sense of belonging, of being cherished, of knowing that someone would remember your story. Thank you, he continued, his voice thick with emotion. Not just for the house, but for seeing us, for believing we deserve this chance. I hugged him, breathing in the scent of sawdust and hope that clung to his clothes. You've given me something too, you know. You've shown me what love looks like when it's real. That evening, Mom and I sat on my balcony, sharing takeout Chinese food and watching the sun set over the city. Below us, the lights began to twinkle like earthbound stars. And somewhere in that maze of streets and dreams, the Garcia family was settling in for another night in their home. Elena got the job, Mom announced, raising her wine glass in celebration. Head nurse position at Children's Hospital. They were impressed by her clinical skills and her leadership experience. Leadership experience? From managing her family's crisis after the fire. I told them that anyone who could keep 3 children's spirits up while living in a motel room and pursuing a degree was exactly the kind of person they needed on their team. I smiled, marveling at how my mother had learned to see strength where others might see only struggle. You're getting good at this mentorship thing. I'm learning from the best, she said, nudging me with her shoulder. Speaking of which, how's the VR project coming along? Better than expected. We're launching the beta next month with a virtual classroom program for kids in rural areas. Imagine being able to take students on field trips to the Louvre or the International Space Station without leaving their hometown. Incredible! Mom shook her head in amazement. You're literally changing the world, sweetheart. We're changing the world, I corrected. Your fundraising efforts have been incredible. The Military Family Support Program alone has raised over $2 million. It's easy to raise money when you believe in the cause. She paused, swirling her wine thoughtfully. You know, I've been thinking about what you said that night. About showing up. About remembering what matters. Yeah. I kept a journal when you were little. Every milestone. Every funny thing you said. Every proud moment. I stopped when your father died because it hurt too much to acknowledge how beautiful life was when I was drowning in grief. She pulled a worn leather book from her purse, its pages thick with years of memories. I found it last week while I was packing for the move. I thought you might like to read it sometime. To know that I was paying attention, even when I forgot how to show it. I took the journal with trembling hands, opening to a random page. Mom's handwriting filled the margins around a photo of my 7th birthday party. Sophia insisted on making her own cake today. It turned out lopsided and slightly burnt, but she was so proud. She said, "Mama, I made this with love, so it tastes perfect." She was right. Best cake I've ever had. Note, teach her about oven temperatures. You remembered, I whispered. I always remembered, baby. I just forgot how to let you see it. We sat in comfortable silence as I flipped through pages of preserved moments. My first lost tooth, my science fair victory, the day I'd announced I wanted to start my own business. Each entry was annotated with Mom's thoughts, her pride, her love. There's something else, she said softly. The new house I'm buying? It's in the Maple Grove development. Not the model home. That belongs to the Garcias forever. But a different one, smaller, more suitable for a woman learning to live simply. You're going to be neighbors? Close enough to babysit when Elena works late shifts. Close enough to share Sunday dinners sometimes. Close enough to be part of their family's story, if they'll have me. I thought about the beautiful irony of it all. I'd bought the Garcias that house as a lesson for my mother, a way to show her what love looked like when it was freely given. Instead, she'd learned the lesson so well that she was now choosing to surround herself with that love, to become part of the very family that had taught us both what we'd been missing. They'll have you, I said with certainty. They already consider you family. Good, because I finally understand what family really means. It's not about blood or obligation or maintaining appearances. It's about choosing to show up day after day for the people who matter most. My phone chimed with a Livestream notification. Without thinking, I glanced at it, then looked more closely. One of my biggest competitors had just announced a major product launch, trying to steal thunder from my upcoming VR release. Work crisis? Mom asked, noticing my expression. Corporate drama, nothing I can't handle. Want to talk about it? I may not understand all the technical details, but I've learned a thing or two about strategy over the years. 6 months ago, I would have brushed off her offer, assuming she couldn't possibly understand the complexities of my business. Now, I found myself explaining the situation, valuing her perspective, grateful for her willingness to engage with the challenges that mattered to me. So they're trying to undercut you by releasing early? Exactly, hoping to capture market share before we can establish ourselves. Mom was quiet for a moment, her business mind clearly working. What if you turn their aggression into your advantage? How do you mean? Well, they're positioning themselves as the competition, right? Which means they're essentially advertising that VR education is the next big thing. You could leverage that attention, maybe partner with some high-profile educators or celebrities to demonstrate the superior quality of your platform. It was brilliant. Instead of panicking about being overshadowed, I could use their noise to create even more buzz for the real innovation. Mom, that's genius. I may have forgotten a lot of birthdays, but I never forgot how to think strategically. She winked. I told you I was learning from the best. The anniversary live stream was Emma's idea. It's been exactly 1 year since the Garcia house stream, she'd pointed out during our weekly planning meeting. We should commemorate it. Now, sitting in the same spot where I'd launched what had started as a revenge plot and evolved into something far more meaningful, I adjusted my ring light and prepared to address my audience. The viewer count was already approaching the previous year's peak, drawn by the promise of updates on the Garcia family and a major announcement about Echo Live's future. Hello, beautiful humans, I began, the familiar greeting feeling like a warm embrace. 1 year ago, I sat in this exact spot, angry and hurt and desperate to make a point. I wanted to teach someone a lesson about love and priorities and what family really means. The chat filled with heart emojis and anniversary wishes. My audience had followed the entire journey, watching as my relationship with Mom transformed from bitter disappointment to genuine partnership. What I didn't expect was that I'd be the one learning the most important lesson of all. I showed recent photos from the Garcia's house, Elena's graduation party, Miguel's promotion celebration, the children's Halloween costumes modeled on their front porch. The Garcia family didn't just get a house that night, they got a community. My mother, who I'd written off as selfish and superficial, has become their greatest champion. She helped Elena get her dream job, connected Miguel with other contractors in the area, and somehow convinced the entire country club to sponsor the kids' little league team. More photos flashed across the screen. Mom teaching Elena's daughter to play tennis, the country club ladies hosting a fundraiser for military families, Mom and Elena laughing together over coffee in their shared neighborhood. But here's the most amazing part, I continued, my voice growing stronger. I learned that love isn't just about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's about choosing to keep showing up, even when it's hard, even when you've made mistakes, even when you have to swallow your pride and admit you were wrong. I held up the leather journal Mom had given me months ago. My mother kept a record of every important moment in my childhood, even though I thought she'd forgotten them all. She was paying attention. She just forgot how to let me see it. And when I finally showed her what she was missing, instead of getting defensive or making excuses, she chose to change. The donation counter had already passed $100,000, all earmarked for the military family support program Mom had spearheaded. So tonight, instead of celebrating revenge, we're celebrating redemption. We're celebrating second chances and the courage to love better. And we're announcing something that wouldn't have been possible without the lessons this family taught us all. I paused for dramatic effect, watching the chat explode with speculation. Echo Live is launching the Family Connection Initiative, a platform specifically designed to help military families stay connected during deployments. Free virtual reality systems for military households, unlimited streaming capabilities, and partnership with schools to ensure children don't miss important moments with their deployed parents. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Donations poured in from corporate sponsors, individual viewers, and military support organizations. Within an hour, we'd raised enough to provide VR systems to every military family in our state. But wait, there's more, I said, grinning at my audience's enthusiastic response. We have a very special co-host joining us tonight to talk about the program. Mom appeared on camera beside me, looking polished and professional in her navy blazer. She'd overcome her initial nervousness about live streaming and had become a natural at connecting with audiences. Hello, everyone, she said warmly. I'm Susan Chen, Sophia's proud mother and the coordinator for the Echo Foundation's Military Family Support Program. The chat went wild with excitement. My audience had watched our relationship evolve over the past year, celebrating each milestone as if they were invested members of our family. I want to tell you about Staff Sergeant Martinez, Mom began, settling into the storytelling rhythm she'd perfected over months of fundraising streams. She's deployed in Germany while her 8-year-old son Jacob is here with his grandmother. Last week, using our beta VR system, Jacob was able to show his mom his science fair project as if she were standing right next to him. She shared story after story, each one illustrating the profound impact of technology used with intention and love. Watching her passionate advocacy for these families, I felt a surge of pride that had nothing to do with business success and everything to do with witnessing someone I loved become their best self. You know, I said as the stream wound down, I started this journey thinking I needed to teach my mother about love. It turns out she was the one teaching me. Oh, sweetheart, Mom laughed, her eyes bright with tears. We were teaching each other. The final donation tally appeared on screen. $1.2 million for military family support. But more than that, we'd created something beautiful together, a legacy of love showing up in practical, tangible ways. After we signed off, Mom and I sat in the comfortable silence that had become our signature. The city sparkled below us, full of families sharing meals, children being tucked into bed, loved ones connecting across distances. I'm proud of you, I said finally. I'm proud of us, she replied. And I'm grateful to the Garcia family for showing us what we could become. My phone buzzed with a text from Elena, watching the stream with the whole family. Thank you for changing our lives, but more importantly, thank you for showing us that love multiplies when it's shared. Miguel says the VR headset we're receiving will let him help his nephew with homework while he's deployed overseas. You're connecting families across the world. Look at this, I said, showing Mom the message. She read it twice, then leaned back in her chair with a satisfied smile. You know what's beautiful about this whole story? What's that? I thought my dream house was about marble countertops and impressive architecture. But the real dream house was never a building at all. It was this. A family that chooses each other, that shows up for each other, that builds something beautiful together. I looked around my penthouse with its gleaming surfaces and perfect city views, then thought about the warmth in Elena's voice when she talked about Sunday dinners around their kitchen island. Both were beautiful in their own way, but only one felt like home. Should we start planning next year's anniversary stream? I asked. Absolutely. But first, let's plan next Sunday's dinner. Elena's bringing her famous tres leches cake, and Miguel promised to teach us his grandmother's enchilada recipe. Will you remember to put it on your calendar? Mom pulled out her phone and made a note with exaggerated ceremony. Sunday dinner with my daughter and our chosen family. 7 p.m., never to be forgotten. Good, I said, settling back to watch the stars emerge over our city. Because some things are too important to leave to chance. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I thought about the perfect irony of it all. I'd set out to teach my mother about love by giving away her dream house, and instead, we'd both learned that the best dreams aren't about what you can acquire, but about what you can create. We'd built something more valuable than any house. A family that showed up, that remembered, that chose each other again and again. The Garcia family had their dream home. My mother had her dream community. And I had something I'd been searching for my entire life: the unshakable knowledge that I was loved, remembered, and seen for exactly who I was. Some revenge plots end in destruction. The best ones end in redemption. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they end in tres leches cake shared around a marble island, surrounded by the kind of love that shows up every single day.